How every morning starts. Cup of coffee. So here's what I got so far. I've got it lined up, and that's the basic point of where it'll be. I'm just a hair ahead of center. My thought being that the nose is going to be the heaviest part with the headlights and all. And then all of that is going to slide forward up to there and then tilt forward, which will clear the front bumper and all. Now I've just got to figure out a hinge assembly. I'm going to put a plate in here, piece of angle iron here, and my pivot will be probably right at the front of here, which will bring the pivot all the way up to here, keeping in mind that it's going to go up, forward, and it'll be, what, another 10 inches higher when it gets up to here, and that should give me enough to flip. So I'm going to go ahead and mock this side up, and we'll try it just with the fender, and if it works, I'll do the other side. Woohoo! Well, 2 days of work, and it's a fail. Because of the angle in, I can't get it to pivot up straight. So what I'm going to have to do is revamp the whole system. New plan to come. Okay, everybody. My issue with the first setup was the fact that it would not run parallel to my rails. So what I've got to do at this point is I've got to make a piece that sits right here. It's going to come off the back. Like this. Back to this bolt hole. It'll have a bend here and go parallel to that. Then it'll loop around the front and do the same thing on the other side. It is exactly one 10-foot piece. But what I'm going to do is mock up one side, see if I can figure out my angles correctly, and then go ahead and do a 3/4 inch piece. And we'll see if that works. Well, we've done a little bit of screwing up. Let's see what we can make happen now. So this will kind of give you an idea of what we're going to do here. Basically, we bent up this piece of tubing so that it will sit right here. I'll put it forward into these two little holes because it'll sit there. So when it sits there like that, it is parallel on each side to my rails. The dog's barking. It will slide forward from here, so this will slide up to here, and then it will pivot. So there will be a hinge back there. So then by doing that, I can set a latch tube here, which will catch it so it won't slide back any farther. I could actually lock it in place by putting a lock of some sort here, because then nobody will be able to slide it forward. They can reach up under the fender, so it really doesn't matter. So there's that part. Now by doing that, if I just put a couple of U's with a pin that slides in, I don't have to pin the back if I can lock it here. So that'll work out pretty slick too. So I'm going to continue on, put some gussets in, and slowly but surely we'll start getting this butt together. So a lot of fiddling around, trying to figure out how this is going to work. And my only setback at this point is, will this clear this as it comes up at that angle? So, in order to find this out, we need the eyeball. And it's so close. I don't know if this is bent or not. I've got to set the hood on to find out for sure. But I really need to get these tracks working. But I have to figure out a way to adjust it in case it is a little bit up or down. So I can go up a little bit more and still be really close to parallel, which is okay. It can actually go up, maybe a 1/2 inch, which is probably enough. So let me find some junk around here. We'll shim that thing up, see if it'll work. Okay, well there you go. You can kind of start to see how it's going to come together. all of the supports on the side here actually come to a single point, which is where the actual hinge will be. So right now what I've got is just the starts of the structure. There will be another crossbar here, which goes all the way across. I can't have one in the back because of the tunnel ram and all, but I will have one in the front. I'm also going to set up the support for the radiator support up underneath here at the same time, which is quite easy to do. So we'll just be plugging away. I'm going to add another support here on each side, and then we'll figure out our attaching points. I've set the braces. These are just tack welds right now, but behind the factory bolt hole. So each one has a bolt hole right next to it. So what I can do is I can put it right through there with a tab, and then just weld the tab to the brace assembly. So this should keep it pretty darn good, we're hoping. And don't forget, I've also got the hood going across, which will add structural support this way, like this. Ooh, that feels good. And then we'll see what happens. So we're going to continue on, and I'll keep shooting some little videos. There's no sense you watching me make mistakes all day. I'll make plenty of them on film too. So I'm actually going to do some gas welding. I'm sure some of you guys are saying, gas welding? What the heck is that? Well, back before MIG was in everybody's shop, we used to do it with a torch. Now I'm working with some galvanized here, so you want to do this well ventilated. Believe me, the wind's blowing like crazy. Garage doors are open. But basically, this is gas welding. You can control your heat. You can just get her a little red. Put a little wire in there. Oh, and gas weld. That means we didn't have enough heat. It will scare the shit out of you. Be careful. Been a while since I did this. We'll work it a little bit. See what we can remember to forget. This kind of works a little better than a MIG welder in some instances, because like here, I've got some gaps. And because I have those gaps, it's kind of hard to fill with MIG. Pretty easy with a torch. Whole trick is get her red before you lose your head. You'll hear this ink popping off, that's okay. Actually, if you grind that all works better, but we're working with conduit here. There's not a whole lot of grinding can be done. Back years ago, when we did this, we walked into the changing room at work, and where they kept our uniforms were all those hangers. They're all wire hangers, and we'd just grab a couple of those. But now, because of all the recycled metals, that stuff is such garbage you can't weld with it. Keeping in mind they're still making Nissans and Toyotas and whatever else with it. But it ain't the same. Just ain't the same. Even the conduit, I can see the dirty stuff in it. It doesn't want to play well with others. Alright, we've got to reset up here. Figure out what to do next. Well, so much for that idea. I'm going to have to try stitching with a MIG because the metal is such garbage now that the actual conduit is just filthy. I can get it okay, but there's so much crud that it's just, the metal's garbage. It's all recycled stuff. It's not pure anymore. And because of all those impurities, it makes it more and more difficult to weld. Now, with the MIG machine, I can do a fair job, but I have to stitch every time because you can't get too much heat in or it'll poke a hole. So I'm gonna go back to the little MIG, see what I can do. One way or another, it's gonna be plenty strong enough, and we're gonna paint it all black anyway. So if anybody wants to moan and complain about how terrible it looks once the front end is on it, well, there's lots of things to moan and complain about. If I make it to Atlanta, nobody's got anything to say because it means I won the battle. Just not necessarily the war. We'll see if I make it home. Thanks for now. So here you go. I don't have a plasma cutter, a magic CNC machine doing all that stuff. So I made this out of an old piece of steel I had, and a side cutter, side grinder, whatever you want to call it. So we'll get her spiffied up. This is going to be half of my hinge. I can actually put some holes in it if we want to get real spiffy. I don't have time for that. So if you see it on the power tour, just know this was made with just cheapo tools in a barn on a 2x6. You can do it too. Okay, so we get a little more in depth today. As you can see, I've got it set up so I can attach it here to the inner fender, or to the inside of the fender. Then I've got my slide rails attached. Right here, I made a set of hinges out of the old hinge on the Chrysler itself, and I made plates so it will slide up all the way. Then this will open up and it will roll over the front of the car. I hope. Now I need to set up the other half of my attachment, which is here. So what I'll do is make a tab at an angle so I can mount that there. So let's do some of that fabrication, and then hopefully today we will bolt it all together and have a tilt front end.